Holy shit. All right.
Yes.
You know, it'd be really funny is if it actually doesn't start recording until, like halfway through this story. Now, by saying that, we can make people think that, like we're actually halfway through a story when we're not. We just started recording. So what's up?
I just ate breakfast. I'm happy to be chatting with my buddy Lan. Pissing off my dog, I guess. I don't know if you heard him bark at me.
Nope. Your audio is crisp to me. Can't hear a
That's
single thing.
crazy. I feel like the AirPods should be dog shit, and that's great.
Okay, so the other two times that we recorded this, they didn't have any problems. So
Cool.
yeah, I guess it's fine. I guess we might as well just address that from the get-go, because I did just say we recorded two other podcasts. This is actually
We did what? I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, my bad, bro. My bad. Yeah, this is actually the first time we're actually recording anything.
Exactly. This is the first time. Speaking of this, I wanted to run some potential podcast names by you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, please do.
Okay, we just get that out of the way. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you take them or leave them. I think they're all pretty strong contenders. All right, option one.
Is that one of the names?
Rise and grind. Yeah, option one.
Okay, go that.
You like
Take
that?
them or leave them as option one.
Take them or leave them is option one. Option
Okay.
one is option two.
Option
Because
one
we
is
can just call it
two.
option one.
Okay.
Right? Okay.
Okay.
I've also got rise and grind set.
Rise and grind set. Okay. Are we trying to
This is for
encapsulate that Andrew Tate grind?
exactly. This is for like future billionaires.
But you're the bald one of us, so you're gonna have to be the one that does the.
Yeah, I'll be the Tate, and you have to
Cool,
be
cool.
like
I
his
just have
wizard.
to be like one of his.
Are you cool being? He has a wizard.
He has a wizard? Okay, so here's the thing. I don't know much about Andrew Tate other than like he's this, grind set entrepreneur kind of guy.
Well, I only know one other thing. I'm pretty sure he dated Michaela Peterson.
Jordan Peterson's daughter?
Yeah.
Oh. Huh, that actually explains
Small world,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll come back to Andrew Tate talk later. I got some more options for you
too, because I got stories from my time at
Ooh,
UFC.
ooh. All right, I do want to come back.
So what are the other options?
All right, get this.
Mm.
Up to his knees, a Max Landis fan cast.
Ooh,
you like that?
See, I didn't prepare any material on Max Landis, so I'm gonna have to be going by the
You don't
seat of my
need
pants
to.
on this one. Okay.
That's how it's done. It's strong, right? It's good.
I think it's pretty strong. Yeah. How many other options do we
Yeah.
have left? I need to mentally prepare myself. Up to
All right,
his
the only
knees,
other one I have.
It's at a very high bar.
I got one more, and I don't know if it's gonna clear that bar. But my third one is India versus Pakistan.
Okay. Yes, I like that one because neither of us
Now,
are Indian or
unfortunately,
Pakistani.
right, that would be a small hurdle to clear.
Yeah, I mean,
But it's
I'm
got
confused
potential.
for Indian very often, so maybe I can clear that hurdle. But
I need to clear the air. What is your
joining
actual
Islam? Oh, I'm Sri Lankan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Islam. Thinking about it, yeah.
Okay.
It sounds. There's
Always
some
a good
good stuff in there.
Yeah.
They don't eat pork, right?
Nope. That is haram.
Okay, I'm halfway there, I guess, because I don't eat mammals.
You're good with fish?
I like fish. I don't eat a lot of it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that doesn't really have any bearing on whether or not you can join Islam, as far as I know.
Okay, cool. So the dietary part I'm good on. Um, I know there's like a prayer they do 5 times a day.
Yeah, you could. I mean, if you're really going down that path of devotion, are you good for like Ramadan and stuff?
What do I gotta do?
You you know what Ramadan is, right?
Oh, I know it's a winter holiday, right?
No, it happens at various points throughout the year.
Oh, there's
It all
multiple
depends on.
Ramadans.
Well, it all depends on the calendar. This is all cursory knowledge as someone who's not Muslim. Um, but yeah, no eating from sunrise to sunset. Uh, for about a month, I think.
Ooh, that I would suck at that. I think that's gonna be the deal breaker.
Mm, okay.
I could be a white guy who converts to Islam and lies though. I could lie about not
I
eating.
feel like that's a very untapped market. Not enough white guys doing that. How many Islamic
I
white
can't
guys do you
I
know?
I don't there's a guy on Twitter who I
Mm,
follow, but I don't think I've ever met a real life white Muslim. I'm sure I've
I've
seen one.
I've met a few. I've met a few.
Are
Um,
they cool?
yeah, they're cool guys. I've only really talked to them for like 3 minutes max, but they seem fine.
I feel like statistically, just
Hmm.
I'm painting in broad strokes here. Late in life, Islam converts are probably much more calm and down to earth than late in life Christianity converts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'd say so. It's funny because I watched
And
Silence the other day. The Scorsese movie,
hmm
and I was just thinking about that. Like because the movie ends on. Actually, no. You know what? I won't spoil it. But, anyways, the whole thing about like Christianity and whatnot. I was fully expecting to go into it thinking that like, oh, this is gonna be greenwashing Christianity, but no, Scorsese does a pretty good job at balancing the cards, if you will.
have you
Um,
seen Last Temptation of Christ?
yes, yes, and I think Silence works as a
Similar.
pretty good companion piece, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah, I
both are
forget where I
pretty.
was actually going with that train of thought. um, yeah, converting to Christianity late in life, that I haven't actually encountered. I've never encountered anyone that's
Well,
converted to Christianity late in life yet.
so I'm gonna give you a segue here.
Okay.
On my college campus, we would get the
Mm,
like born again Christians, and so they would like proselytize at us and shout at us.
right.
But
I mean, those guys
college
are usually in their like
campus,
20s, right?
yeah, that's late in life to me. I mean,
That's late
I'm
in
saying
life
late
too.
in life as opposed. No, no, no.
Okay.
It's late in life to me, as in like you're not born into a faith,
Okay, okay. Okay, that changes a
right?
lot.
Like,
Yeah, in that case I've met several born again Christians, yes.
yeah. But this was your segue opportunity, and I don't want you to
Oh
blow it.
shit. Okay,
This is how
go on,
you
go on.
you circle back to Jordan Peterson.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Do I do I do I go
You,
now or are you going to
yeah,
keep
you said
your
you had a story about him. Let's
Oh,
go.
yeah. So the thing is Jordan Peterson is or was, I think, at this point, a professor at the University of Toronto, my alma mater. And it was funny because the height of his popularity was just when I started going to U of T. And it was around that time that, like there was that sort of division. But then if you go to any professor at U of T and you just ask them about their thoughts about, Peterson, they all thought the guy was just a goofball. Just a real, just a complete idiot. I remember
Right,
going to
like
my
he
first
doesn't
year of
get the glowing praise that he gets from like the
no,
media.
you like you exactly like you think that he'd be like this very tenured professor, but I went to like one of my English profs in first year, and I just went, "Hey, so what's the deal with this Jordan Peterson guy?" And he's like, "Ah, that idiot." It's cool. I mean, it's cool that he was so candid with me, But at the same time,
Right,
I
that
was just like,
rocks.
oh, okay, that's cool. Are you, it's so weird. It was a weird experience for me, particularly because in high school, teachers are always like very uppity about not disparaging their peers. Like you could go
Right,
to
but
a
then in
teacher and be
college that
like,
all changes.
yeah, in college that all changes. Everyone is like, yeah, I fucking hate that guy. And they can be in the same department too. And be like, yeah, that guy, worst professor I've ever met. But yeah, it was
Yeah,
cool.
I feel
I
like
think that was. Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I feel like there's kind of more at stake in a sense in high school because they're not getting paid as much. So, like,
Yeah,
even if you like disrespect that teacher to a certain extent, like as long as that person is an outright monster, it's kind of like this working class solidarity. Like, I'm not gonna fucking
yeah,
badmouth this guy. Like, we're both just trying to keep a job. Versus in college, like, not that that's like really grand, but there's a
yeah.
little
It's not like the
more.
bourgeoisie, particular, but
Right, right. It's not the bourgeoisie, but like
yeah.
college professors, you don't. I don't think they're on such a thin wire the way high school teachers can be. I could be completely wrong.
I mean, it depends, depending on department. Some department, heads are really anal about many things. Like there's so much variety, I guess, in what kind of professor you can meet mood wise. But anyways, as I was saying, it was the first real like turning point for me because up until that point I had heard about Peterson. I hadn't really done much research into him, I guess. But it was around that time that Bill C-16, I think it was making the rounds, and I realized that since you're not Canadian, um, I'm gonna have to give you a bit of an explainer. It's just a human rights act, basically an anti-discrimination act. Uh, the whole
Mm.
misgendering clause. So that was like a hot button or a hot seat uh topic at the time. And around that time, I don't think I was particularly ambivalent, but I was more so like, I'm already suffering through university. I don't really have time to, dig deep into the politics of this one jackass professor at the university. But I think that moment, like going to a department or a professor, I should say, and just having them tell me he's that much of a goober, I think that was like the real turning point. I'm like, maybe I should actually look into this guy's politics some more. And I think that's when the whole like image of him fell apart.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
it's really
if you
interesting.
like,
Or no, go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh, and I was just gonna say
Like
it's
on
really interesting 5 years later just to see, like him post benzo, post meat diet, doing
dude, like
whatever the hell he's doing now.
I saw this clip going around on Twitter of like his actual classes and like
Oh,
my
they're
guy
mental.
is flying.
That they're mental. I the first thing I did after that, I went because like obviously professors have their recordings up on their sites and whatnot. So I'm like, oh, I could probably find a lecture um recording for one of Peterson's classes. And I did. I went and I looked and I think it was a fourth year psych class because he's a psych prof. Um and it was just him rambling about Solzhenitsyn for like 40 minutes, and it was the most deranged shit I'd just ever seen.
He was ranting about what?
Uh Solzhenitsyn, is that his name?
I don't know what that is.
It's the writer guy from, I'm really making myself, Solzhenitsyn, Alexander Solzhenitsyn, Soviet dissident, outspoken critic of communism.
Oh,
So
okay. So I'm
clearly,
guessing Peterson's like a fan.
yeah. So it was
Right.
just pretty much him, like ranting about like Solzhenitsyn's work, um, for like 40 minutes straight. I couldn't really grasp any of it because again, I was like 18. I didn't know a single thing
Yeah.
about any of it. But yeah, it definitely goes to show that that deranged aspect of his lectures, or just like him talking, has not changed
Yeah.
over the past decade, half decade.
Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people will run with a certain, like shtick, and his shtick is ranting like crazy about some random thing until people just give up, give up trying to fight back.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Peterson. What a jackass. So I've been fishing.
Yeah, I want to hear
Um,
about this fishing.
yeah, no, I've just been fishing in Yakuza 0. I've been playing Yakuza 0 for the past 2 weeks, I think. I'm about like 60 hours into the game. I'm not even halfway done. Because I've been fishing a lot. Again, the sub stories just like really, really grab you. Um, yeah, and like Yakuza 0 is the first real game that I've played in a while since. Well, I mean, I've been playing like Ace Attorney games on the side, but it's the first game where I've actually like sat down and been like, all right, I'm gonna be playing this. No one bother me since maybe June. So
This looks incredible.
I'm really reveling in my playthrough of this game. It's a fantastic game. I think it's honestly like a 10 out of 10 game.
Is it the
Um,
newest one?
no, this one came out in 2016, I want to
Okay.
say. Yeah, 2015. So I'm pretty late to it. Because the first time I played it, I played 2 hours before realizing I was on my brother's account. So then I kind of just gave up. And I'm like, all right, I'll deal with this later. And that was like a year or two ago. So I'm finally finally getting back to it. But yeah, it's been great. And it really got me thinking about game criticism as well, just because I've been watching like a whole bunch of games journalism implosions happen just from the sidelines. Like Fanbyte Media pretty much gutted their entire, well, not entire, but most of their staff. I think it was a month ago, because some shit with Tencent, because Tencent owns Fanbyte. And then last week was the G4 shutdown. Again, because of corporate fuckery. But yeah, it really got me thinking about like games criticism and then by extension comics criticism, which thing that I haven't thought about in so many months. And then it really got me thinking more about just talking about comics in general. Just because I feel like that's a skill that I had that I just no longer really have, or at least it feels like a muscle that I haven't trained in so long.
Yeah, you'll need to like go out to the woods with like a massive stack of floppies and
Oh
and
yeah.
TPBs
Well, the
and
thing is,
like
it's not that I haven't been reading either, but I haven't. This is probably the least I've read comics since that period of time in my life between 2012 and 2016 where I wasn't really reading comics. Like,
yeah.
for me, right now, comics reading is going into my comic shop, having them give me whatever was on my pull list, and then me going home, throwing it onto a pile, a very large pile, I should say, and then randomly choosing to read like a book or two every few days.
Yeah.
So I'm in my most anti-reading phase that I've been in since mid 2016. Um,
Yeah, I mean,
and
as you get older, you're not going to be able to read as many books as you were when you were a kid.
yeah, I'm realizing that, but at the same time, I'm starting to question like why I'm not reading as much, because it's not like I don't have the free time for it. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like
I mean, if I were
obviously a
to
lot of
make a
people.
guess,
Or go ahead, make your
my
guess.
guess would be that it's not so much a lack of time, but in a way your taste evolves, and that's just what happens to everybody because
I,
you
I think
you
it's a
start
bit
to kind of
more.
see like when they're doing the old tricks again. You're like, oh, I've seen this type of story, I've seen this style of art, and so like you're really only making time for the stuff that's that's like going the extra mile.
I mean, even then, like there are some really, really good books that I've gotten over the past couple months, and I've just been like, oh, I'll get to them, but I've never actually gotten to them up until this point. Um, and I think it's just because of a general burnout of the comics industry, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm gonna do the cardinal sin and mention the other podcast episodes that we've recorded or not recorded, I should say. Um, and I was just thinking about like how you know those Action Comics issues that I read, I probably wouldn't have read them for any other reason, like other
Yeah.
than doing that episode.
I mean,
And it
I
really
might have read them. I used to read that title a lot.
really
Oh, I used to buy Action it like every month.
like how long ago is this?
Um, that was I probably bought the last issue like 4 years ago, but I was doing that for like 8 years.
God damn! So you read through all the Jurgens and Tomasi and all that jazz?
Most of it. I mean, I wasn't there like every single month, but I,
Mm.
I I read most of those runs. Yeah, like I think I started like with Cornell after Blackest Night.
Okay, yeah.
Uh, so that was probably when I started. It got really uneven, which is why I like started reading it less and
Yeah.
less. Like
Yeah,
Jurgens
for
was
me,
probably like the brightest bright spot in those last 8 years. I think he got it the most.
it was the safest one, I would say.
Yeah,
I
he's just
remember
kind
because
of
that was
rehashing what
around.
worked from the '90s.
Yeah, pretty much. It was because it was around that time that I started, getting back into reading comics, and I was just like, oh, this is definitely a Superman comic. This is definitely one of the Superman comics of all time. So I kind of
Yeah.
just went along with it. Um,
Well, I wasn't reading Action because it was ever exceptionally good. I was reading it because I was hoping it would get good.
I mean, I feel like that's the reason why a lot of people read comics in general. Not
Right.
because they're. I don't think. I would like to think that many people aren't reading Cates's Hulk because it's good. I think they're just reading it because they're hoping that the story is gonna get good enough to match up to the art at some point.
I mean, if I were to do a Twitter search right now, I could find probably
Oh, I don't want
10,000 counter examples of something like, this is the best story.
I, Kate's fans scare me. I think that's the best way I could put it.
Yeah.
Kate's fans absolutely scare me. Um,
I I hate to sound like elitist, but I feel like a lot of these people like haven't picked up a comic before.
I feel like
Do you
they
think that's
have.
fair?
I feel like they
Okay.
have. It's just that the nature of what comics they've picked up is the thing that needs to be questioned.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know what it is about these people, but I'm just like, there's so many other things, right? And like comics can be more than this.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'd see that's the other thing. I feel like I'm at a stage where I'm like, okay, I get it. Like I'm thinking about that tweet from the comics explain guy again. The fancy music tweet
Yeah,
about
that
Black
was
Adam.
so good.
It's
Oh, we should read that
I
one.
oof, okay. Let me pull it up. Let me pull up that tweet. That is it.
Because it's a work of art.
It's I read that tweet and I'm like, I thought about it, and I haven't stopped thinking about it since it was posted 2 days ago. Okay, so for the viewers at home, Robert Jefferson, otherwise known as Comics Explained, a guy whose entire career is based off of taking the plots from comics that are, being released, summarizing them, and, making videos summarizing said plots so that people don't actually have to read the comics.
You
Just
knew this
setting
guy
up.
already.
Oh yeah, I know of this guy. I've never watched more than like a video or two before I realized how repulsed his videos made me, but I know of this guy.
Got it.
Um so yeah, that's the context of who he is. Like his entire career is just um regurgitating. That's the word I was looking for. Regurgitating comic plots into the mouths of these babies that purport to know about comics, despite not reading them. And he, on October 21st, tweeted, I feel like the critics who gave Black Adam low scores are the kind of people who sit around drinking wine while listening to fancy music and saying that movies are art. Just a, a beautiful mind, I have to say.
It's
I,
so good.
it's, there's so much, like, I, if I were to pick it apart, I feel like that would just take a whole other hour.
Oh yeah.
just it's just such a beautiful tweet. That's the only thing I can say about it. Um
Yeah.
Movies
I
aren't
mean, no,
art.
there is a lot of
They're
yeah,
not
no,
art.
that's
Yeah,
that's
they're
the
not
part
art.
that part sticks out to me for sure. I mean, I think what really blows me away about it is like the part that people have been harping on for the last few years, with the superhero backlash is like you guys won. Like
Yeah.
this movie is gonna make
No.
millions of
It's
dollars. Like
already
you're
made, I
not
think,
the
100
underdog.
million.
Right. And like more to the point, The Rock and his producers are the ones who are gonna make all that money. Like as the fan, how are you materially benefiting?
I and that's what I've been questioning over the past year. Just the overall defensiveness, not even just towards comic book movies, but like comics in general. Like
Yeah.
um again, this goes back to the whole comic criticism thing. Just the sort of canonization of some works as like these immutable, like this is a biblical text, and the entire time they're talking about like a Grant Morrison comic from 2008.
Right.
Um yeah, and for the large part of this year, I hadn't really been thinking about criticism as a whole, just because I was suffering through the horrors of life, and I didn't really really didn't get the chance to think about it. But now that I've actually had some downtime to really consider, um, mainly the events of the past 2 years for me, just sort of like me entering comics criticism, being burned by it, and then sort of being cast off to the side, um, or casting myself off to the side, I should say, and sort of just looking at it and like wondering what it is, what it could be. Um, I really started questioning the purpose of talking about comics at all. And this isn't like a deep thing. This isn't like a deep thing. This is as shallow as me reading a comic, going into a
Yeah.
group chat and being like, "Hey, I read this comic." You know?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that the if there's a unique facet to comics fandom, it's that a lot of the people who are getting really loud in their comics criticism are the people who would rather be creating comics themselves, or in a sometimes even more delusional sense, they see themselves as these like time displaced successful writers So
Yeah,
in like
I feel.
5 to
I mean,
10 years, I'm going to be this huge deal as a writer. But for now, you guys need to see the vision and like deal with my bitchiness.
it's either that or they see themselves as like a Templar Knight Brotherhood that needs to like protect the sacrosanctity of of comics.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
like
that one
we
too.
must uphold the
Yeah,
canon. we must.
right.
we must prop up this writing, and we have to say that Jeff Johns is a scourge upon our land. Which,
Or
to
the
be fair,
opposite, that he is like the second coming.
yeah, exactly. And I feel like the former is definitely true. He is a scourge upon the land, but not for the reasons you
Well, yeah,
think. Um, yeah, I, and also just conversations in general about comics. I feel like have gotten so cyclical over the past um year, 2 years. Uh, Again, like the Ouroboros tweet that I put out a month or two ago, which
that's
is
your hit, dude.
yeah, my biggest hit in a while. You know, like when I made that tweet, I was like really going through it mentally, just thinking about like the futility of just talking about comics, just knowing that it's gonna go
Yeah,
back into some shit. Like I've kept my mouth shut about X-Men comics for so long, just because I know I I'm tired. I don't need whatever discourse there is about X-Men comics and what they should be and what they are and what they're not. You know,
right,
it's the same conversations that were being had like a year ago or 2 years ago. It's just that now you have Kieran Gillen in the midst of it all. Um,
yeah.
that being said, one of the few comics that I have been reading because it's on my pull list and I've just been getting a bunch of them is Judgment Day, the big X-Men Avengers Eternals event. Um,
Okay,
and I've actually been enjoying it quite a lot. Um, I'm sure that might be controversial to some viewers, but yeah, I've actually been enjoying it quite a lot, especially since I've been discussing very little of it with people.
yeah,
It's just one of those things that, you know, like it shows up, I read it, I'm like, oh, that was nice, and then I put it down and just keep going with the rest of my day. It's been very refreshing. I think that's the best way to be reading comics right now.
yeah,
Um, it's it's weird, you know. Because there's a part of me that wants to go back to talking about comics the way I used to, just being able to like address
right.
stuff. Even just like the YouTube channel in general, that is more a time thing than anything. But it, it's weird. The YouTube channel, I left it off on a video about graphic novels.
Yeah, I've
Uh,
watched your
it
YouTube stuff.
yeah,
It's good.
it and it's funny. It's a part one video, and that part one was released uh 2 years ago. And there still is no part two, so I feel like if I ever were to go back to YouTube, I would have to go back on part two of that video. But my outlook on comics has changed so much over the past 2 years that I don't know how exactly I would approach making a video about that.
Yeah, I mean, the sort of big thoughts, capital B, capital T, I've had with like as far as the big two stuff goes, is Marvel recently announced that they're keeping the comics events like at about 5 to 10 years ahead of the movies in terms of storylines, which is
Yeah, that's what it
on its
seems.
surface
Or
yeah, it's like a nonsensical statement on its surface, but what a lot of people were pointing out it really meant is they're basically treating the comics as like R&D. So
yeah, pretty much. You
what
know,
I
like seeing which ones uh get big reactions out of readers, and just, you know, like seeing which ones are actually popular and which ones they can adapt, like Secret Wars, for instance.
Right.
That's what they're
So like
leading up to
I'm
now with movies.
yeah. I'm really thankful in a way they just came out and said it because it put into words like what I'd been trying to figure out felt so weird with like the big two books and arguably even some of the image books and a lot of the other publishers too, which is like
When is this
in a
becoming a
way
movie?
this is not even so much that it's becoming a movie, but that it's sort of reformatting the business practice of the focus group. You know, it used to be for a focus group, whether
Mm.
it's for a movie or any other product, you would get paid to go in and give your opinion, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Now,
You're paying
now it's
to,
like, yes,
you're paying
exactly.
to go give your opinion.
Right. And
Yeah,
it's
I
like
mean,
what you're
I will
paying to
say
give your opinion for is the movie they're going to make, right? It's not even necessarily a good story. It might incidentally be a good story. Sometimes like you're enjoying with Judgment Day, it looks like it has beautiful art, but like that's really
oh yeah,
more
that's
incidental to the
in their
process.
eyes. In their eyes, I don't know how well it's selling, but if it is selling well, in their eyes, they're like, yeah, okay, we can do something with this. Um,
Right.
and in the indie sphere, because you did bring up indie comics. Whenever I read an indie comic and oh, that's good. My initial thought is like, all right, so when is this gonna get optioned for a movie? When is this getting
Yes,
optioned for a
or the
TV
Netflix
show?
streaming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like so many Boom, Image, Vault, I should say, because Vault actually did get one of their comics optioned to be a show the other day.
Yeah.
So many that I'm just looking at them, I'm just thinking, all right, so when are you becoming a TV show?
Right.
Um, and I'm not sure how much that's affected my enjoyment of these comics. Just like
Yeah.
I think I've learned to separate it as sort of like, all right, this is just a thing that will happen. But at the same time, like I guess it's not like the writer or the artist is necessarily a part of, well, in the case of the big two, I should say, they're not necessarily a part of that process. So, like I should be treating it as their interpretation, their story. Um, with indie comics, it's more so like you can really tell when a story is made to be adapted. Uh, like with
Yeah.
like with the Substack stuff, you know, you're just looking at that and I'm like, all
Yeah,
right,
I haven't read any of that stuff.
well, you'll be glad to know that I'm in the exact same boat. I have the Hickman Three Worlds, Three Moons. Like they released a source book, and I ended up getting the source book, uh, just because uh it just ended up in my hands. But anyways, I have it, and it's sitting in my closet. I have not touched it. I have not read it. Um, so I am a bit further than you, but at the same time, I'm at the same spot as you. If that makes any sense. Uh,
Yeah, like
it's so
you're
weird. It's so weird thinking
there's not
about
really
like
a motivation,
Substack
it
is
sounds like.
it. It's what 2 year, 1 year in now, or is it 2 years in? It's
Uh, one or two, yeah.
Yeah, it's like 1 or 2 years in, and I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like more creators are signing up, and it seems like the overall discussion around it has sort of died down a lot. And when some creators have actually like reduced their prices, I know Chip Zdarsky reduced the price on his uh, Substack. So it really does seem like they're either plateauing or they're starting to look for other options. And I use
Well, so I have
options.
another theory.
Go ahead.
So this is another big thought, and like
Mm.
the
Capital
the
B, capital
reason they
T.
have to do that, capital B, capital T, the reason this why this business model will have to go this way, and I don't see it ever fully taking off, is like a lot of comics readers are like really shy, asocial people. Like they're not like freaks, but they like don't know how to like organically socialize. So they like going to the comic shop as a
Mm,
means to like necessitate and facilitate human interaction. And the key is they
yeah.
might not know that about themselves.
It's there's that one, what was it, Clickhole or The Onion? That was like every person at a comic shop thankful to be the only normal one there.
Yeah, that's so good. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, and I feel like with the Substacks, they're going, there'll be a passing interest, and of course there could be overlap, but it's never going to take off with these comics readers like abandoning comic shops. Like, oh, Substack's easier. Like they need that social component. And then on the flip side, I don't see Substack making a substantial amount of new readers. I don't see them
I will say there
making
is a
more than
social
like
component.
7 new readers.
I will say there is a social component to it, and more specifically, there's
Yeah.
a parasocial component to it. And
Yeah,
again, these
that's
are
true.
talking points from a year ago, but just like writers, sort of getting people to pay for access to them just to talk to them. Um,
Yeah.
like I know some of them
Right.
have
That's
like
kind of what it
memories
most
and
has
such.
going for it.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like they're exchanging the social element to being like, hey, you can go from you don't need to talk to other people about this. You can talk to me about it, Uh
Right. Like you can hear Jonathan Hickman and Grant Morrison interview each other about like their favorite like writer warm up techniques. Woohoo.
it's the access.
Yeah. No, but that's key. I hadn't thought about that. That's really important. The social shift to the parasocial. And that really does change the dynamic for the reader and the culture.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's weird to think about how much, you know, the gap between the writer and the reader has closed over the past decade, I'd say. Just with the advent of
Right.
Twitter and even, like this, I feel like is a step forward in some ways in that regard, just because writers are now talking to readers. Writers are talking to critics. Like you have critics that are friends with writers, and I mean, there's a larger discussion there about like what the conflict of interest and the ethics of that. Just being friends with, or like at least being very good accomplices, no, acquaintances. Sorry, with the people that are like critiquing your work. Um, I'm not gonna name names, but some comic script pieces that are like very effusively praising some indie creators, and then you see them interacting all friendly on Twitter, and then you're realizing they're following each other, and then you realize, oh, they actually talk to each other, and you're realizing, oh, the writer's actually talking to the critic and telling them about their work. The barrier basically is gone, is what I'm saying. And so
Right.
I'm wondering how that's gonna change with Substack and whatnot. Just being like, when Hickman started his Substack, so many readers, but also so many critics were flocking to it just to see, like what's the process like? What is, like you said, with him talking to Morrison, it was like, oh, what's going through their heads? And in some regards, it's cool, just being able to see how the uh how the hot dog's made. But in other aspects, it really does raise some questions about, like what the purpose is of comics criticism, or just like comics discourse in general, when there is that closeness to creators. And I realize the irony of saying this is that like both of us are very well acquainted with um, Ramon Villalobos, for the viewers at home. Uh,
The outlaw of comics.
yeah,
True outlaw.
true, true
I
outlaw
mean,
comic.
when I think what you're raising is a really important question, and it ties back a little bit into what I was saying about, critics who see themselves as writers and fans who see themselves as writers or artists, and I don't think that's inherently something to be looked down upon. It's pretty cool if, you're trying to make a thing and make it happen. And I see something like Substack is ultimately more of an obstacle to that process for certain people. I
Is it
see,
because it's democratizing that?
yeah, well, I see it almost as anti-democratizing that. Like I think about the sort of failed promise of YouTube. That's what it makes me think of. Like when YouTube first came out, it was like, oh, now anyone has the means by which to distribute their videos, publish their videos, and now anyone can be seen. It's all equal opportunity. And I don't necessarily remember the early years of YouTube that well, but there certainly was no algorithm. There
Oh,
was a
definitely not.
truth. There was a truthfulness to that claim, but then there absolutely was a shift. I don't know the exact year, but the algorithms definitely started getting beefed up. Circa 2010, give or take a few years.
Yeah, I think
Then it was all just like
it was around the Arab Spring when that happened. It's funny. So I wrote a paper about this in university about like the pipeline
oh,
from
great, yeah,
like the Arab Spring to Gamergate and Trump getting elected, and even just like Reddit. But yeah, absolutely, there was that shift around that. I'm not blaming the Arab Spring for getting right wing comment, right wing
no,
content
that's a
being
great like
like
marker in time,
recommended,
though.
but
I'm so glad
yeah,
you said
it is around that time because I think that was around the time that people really started using social media for more than just posting for the sake of posting. It was more so like
right.
the political aspect of it, or just like
And
the
business,
activism and the business. Yeah, the
yeah.
business especially. That's when the business really started stepping in and making itself known within online spaces.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I see with Substack is, something, on its surface that, like, to use your word, it's ostensibly supposed to be more democratizing, but it's really just making a means for the established creators to better cement their status. And, to their credit, a lot of these people are not rock stars. A lot of them do need like more additional funding.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the other funny thing about Substack in general is just like with this exodus of these big creators going there, you're left with the indie creators kind of just, throwing up their hands and be like, "All right, so what about us? What do we
Right.
do?" Indie comics creation is always in a fun state of flux, I should say. Uh I really want to talk about, and it sucks that we're not editing this because otherwise I would just bleep out the name. But I mean, if I'm gone this long, so I feel like you already have a faint idea of who I might be talking about. Um, the internet's favorite soft boy comic writer, Chip Starsky's son. Hopefully that one gives it away. But anyways, just
Ooh, I might need more context, but you know what? I'll hang on for now and see if I can piece the pieces together.
okay. I
You
feel
you
like
you
if you go
continue.
through if you go through recent conversations in the comics channel on the Villalobos server, you could throw in
Okay.
money. Anyways, indie comics is always in an interesting spot, and I will say that's the one thing that I've kind of really been at the edges of over the past year. Um, it's weird to see that Kickstarter has made it back into a relative norm, I should say, after the end of last year. Because I remember at the end of last year, people were getting real ready to write it off because of their move to crypto. or paying with crypto, I should say. But a
Yeah.
year later, I don't know where that they stand on that, where anyone stands on that. It seems that a
Well,
lot of
they
creators are
stand on
going
it.
back to. Oh, go ahead.
They stand on it the same way any Westerner stands on any issue of moral outrage. They're angry for a week, and then on the eighth day, they just forgot.
Hmm.
Like, people
Yeah.
can't stay mad about something for more than a week here. There's exceptions, but mostly in the Western Hemisphere, no one's angry about some online news for more than a week.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when I saw the latest in Jeff John's fuckery last week. Um, because he did some more shit. It brought Alan Moore back into the news just because people were like, oh, you shouldn't touch Watchmen, this that and then a week later. Well, I mean, it's been a week later now, and people seem to have forgotten about that.
Oh,
So
Jeff Johns was the one who instigated that,
oh no, I think he exacerbated it because I think what started
right?
it was something else entirely. Because that ended up
Right.
propagating into writers versus artists, and I think that subsided. So I think we're headed towards our next big portfolio day, which is great.
Yes,
Yes, portfolio day.
finally.
But yeah, the Ouroboros thing is funny because all the topics on that wheel never last for more than a week max. Like the piracy conversation, the
Right.
Superman is boring conversation. You'll probably get a few stragglers, like a week later and be like, hey, I missed the train on this. I still want to talk. But other than that, like
Yeah.
the attention span of the internet is just really bad when it comes to these things. And maybe that's the reason why the Ouroboros just keeps spinning is just because the memory is that bad, but yeah. I'm starting to think that the past hour, well, it's been almost an hour since we started, has just been the most schizophrenic, just going off of whatever comes to mind. There's no structure to it whatsoever. It feels like a Joe Rogan podcast.
Well, hey, that's what
Except,
you wanted, right?
is it? I don't know what I wanted. I just woke up. I just woke up at some point last week and I was like, maybe we really should get to this podcast thing. Because the thing is,
Well, I'll put it like this. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, every month or so, I'm reminded that the other podcast was recorded and that it's sitting in my computer occupying 8 gigabytes worth of space,
Yeah.
unedited. And every time I try to open it in Audacity, I just look at Audacity. Audacity looks back at me, and I'm like, I don't want to edit this. I don't want to sit for 2 hours and listen to my voice. That's why we're not editing this one. Whatever flubs I make, you can say whatever
Flub,
slur you
flub,
want,
flub,
Salt,
flub,
and it's
flub.
staying in. It's staying in.
I'm not much of a slurhead, but I
Yeah, I'm
will
not much of
take
a
that into
slurhead either.
consideration.
But
Yeah.
viewers at home, where things stand now. Um, right. So back to last week. I woke up and I was like, all right, I've finished work on Taro Man stuff for the time being. Um, well, not necessarily finished, but at least I'm taking a significant break from it, just because the V1s are done. And I'm like, I have a lot of free time now to work on the podcast, but I don't wanna. So I thought, like, why not just record a third time? And I'm like, I have this huge plan. I'm like, all right, we're gonna record this for the third time, but we're gonna release this one first, but we're still gonna call it episode 3, right? And then we're gonna mention that this is episode 3 and treat it as though it's the third of a series, even though we haven't released episode 1 or 2. And at some point when I actually do get the energy to actually edit the other one, I'll put that out as episode 1, which will leave people thinking, "Oh, where's episode 2?" But the thing is, there is no episode 2 because we fucked up the first recording, so that one just does not exist. It was
I
really funny, but then I
really,
brought that to you, and then
yeah,
you know
I'm,
this happened.
I think I'm gently talking you out of taking a small problem and turning it into the most convoluted solution ever.
Oh, but see, that's the beauty. It's just, the beauty is just
This is,
exacerbating it into something so much bigger and so much more of a problem. Because again, now that we're actually the intention is to release this one. Again, the
yeah.
intention is that what people are hearing now will be heard within the span of a week of recording this. We're recording this on October 23rd, 2022. All right, so people will
Okay,
be able to hear this one. And now, after they've heard this one, right, they're going to be like, all right, so they've admitted that there are 2 other recordings. First off, there are not 2 other recordings. There's only 1 other recording because I fucked up the other recording. There is another recording that exists. There is another podcast that exists. They don't even know that this is a different one from that one. Like so they're gonna live with after having, if they've listened, first off, if they've listened this far, they now have to live with the fact that there exists this other recording from 3 months ago now, 3 months ago, that lays in my computer unedited, that they may or may not ever see. So now that's going to prompt them to message me, to tweet at me and be like, where is that one? And I'm going to be like, don't worry about it. So if we record another one of these,
yeah,
that weight is not only on us, but on the viewer themselves. But if we keep going with this, right? If we keep this jig going, there might come a time where people just forget about the other podcast. Where they just forget that I have that recording. For all they know,
yeah.
that recording might not actually exist. I could have been bluffing about that, taking up 8 gigs of my my computer storage this entire time.
This telltale heart of a file sitting on the
Yes,
computer,
this
just
is
like,
the telltale heart of this podcast, and it's just sitting, staring at me. Every single time I run out of storage on my computer, I think
and
to
it.
myself, I could just delete that. I could just delete that and free up 8 gigabytes worth of space on my computer, which I could use
I
for
think.
whatever. And
Well, you know what the best outcome would be this, Lan. The best outcome would be that
me
when
actually
we're
doing it,
done recording today, you find a reason to delay uploading this,
uploading
and
this
then you
one,
think
and
about
then
coming back to it, and then in like say January or whatever, you're like, okay, we're gonna do over, we're
record a
gonna try
full time.
again. Yeah, and then we just get
Okay.
stuck in this cycle of 3 months trying to redo
So
the
at the
first
end of the
episode
day,
over and over.
it's just going to be us and whoever we bring into this. And I think that's the next step, is that we just keep bringing on more people into
There you
this.
go.
Like we keep
Yeah.
bringing on, we record it with them, we tell them, "Oh yeah, don't worry, I'll get it. We'll get it edited in time." Or, we won't
You
edit it
sweet
at all. We
you
basically
sweet
sweet
talk
talk them.
somebody, right, and then eventually you can overcome any latent tendencies for self-sabotage.
And then I actually edit one of them. Or do I just not edit any of
Yeah,
them? I mean, I feel
I
like
don't know.
we
That's
could just see, the thing is, if we do actually make something out of this, and this isn't just a one-off thing, we could always make that. You know how every YouTuber has their gimmick, like the 100th episode special, where they actually show the thing that they've been using as a gag for the past 99 episodes. We just do that,
right.
but our 100th episode is just that
There you go.
recording.
I like that plan. I have a comic I wanted to reference that I've been reading.
Go for it.
Shout out to Daniel Warren Johnson's Wonder Woman Dead Earth.
That is a good comic. That
It's
is a good
really
comic.
good. It's
It's
stuck with me for a lot of reasons. Like, there's the sort of like joke about the white guy who tries to do the anime style and like how well he gets it, and like this dude really gets it. Like, and partly
yeah,
he gets it because he's not trying to ape anime. What he gets so well is he's really studied the manga inking techniques. So he's not
yeah.
trying to
The
like copy
the
how the faces
vibes
are
in
done or anything
general.
like that. It's the vibes, yeah. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
done through like actual talent and like practice with his brush.
yeah. I remember reading because Dead Earth was what 2019. I want to say.
Oh, I thought it was more recent. I'm like so fucking
No,
clued out,
it's
man.
hold on. Wonder Woman, Dead Earth. 'Cause I
No,
remember when
you're
as it was
pretty close. It was 2020.
2020. Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember I have the first issue, and it's like that huge Prestige Plus format that DC did. So it's pretty much like the size of uh I don't know. It's very square. That's all I know. It's big
Yeah, I've got
and
like
it's
a
square,
hardcover. It's really big.
and it really showcases just like the brushwork, just the handiwork
Yes.
of his art so well. And I'm like, because up until that point, I had been such a big denier of the Prestige Plus format. I was like, oh, all right, DC is absolutely just doing this to milk out whatever money they can out of the idiots buying black label books. And to be fair, they still are. But at the same
Yeah,
time,
they
this is one of
absolutely
those
are.
like,
You weren't wrong.
yeah, I was not wrong. So just for the viewers at home, let it be known I was not wrong. But at the same time, Dead Earth,
Lan vindicated.
I am vindicated. I will always be vindicated. I've been so vindicated over the past 2 years about various things. I feel so good. But anyways, Dead Earth is beyond that because it's one of the few black label books. First off, one of the few black label books that are actually good, but also one of the few black label books that use the format well and really take
Yeah,
advantage of the artistic element of just blowing comic art up to that size.
right.
Same goes for like Javier Rodriguez for History of the Marvel Universe. I got the Treasury edition, which again, another huge book. I got that for like 50% off at some kind of
Yeah,
sale. I think it was at a comic shop. But I got it, and man, Rodriguez's art is just so beautiful at that size, you know. And at the same time, like the activism side of me, the rah rah indie comic side of me, that part all just dissipated. I'm like, oh man, this is thank you Marvel
pretty.
for blowing it up to this size.
Well, I hadn't heard of this book before. This History of the Marvel Universe. I'm looking at it now.
It's
This
written
is
by Mark Waid.
gorgeous.
It's
Yeah,
you're honestly just there for like for most Marvel Treasury, Treasury edition books. You're really just
yeah.
there for the art.
I
Um,
mean, I'm pretty much there for the art for all books these days.
yeah, for because the two Treasury editions I have are that and Silver Surfer Black. And Silver Surfer Black, again, I'm there for Tradmore's art. I'm not there for Cates's writing. Um, the other Treasury editions that I can think of right now are the Ed Piskor X-Men books.
Sweet.
That's where it really starts to stretch the limits of being there for the art.
Right.
Um, but yeah, big art always a good idea. I think more books need to encapsulate on the idea of making you know comics that are big physically, not just like story wise, but like literally big.
Yeah. No, I would double down on that. Like I would love to see a sort of arms race between publishers of who can publish the most physically large comic.
There was a one Marvel book that was like the size of a human torso. They put that out a while back.
Was that an
Um,
Alex Ross book?
it was an Alex Ross book. I think I
Yes,
have
I've seen this book in
because
person. Really cool.
I have a tweet from what's his face, David Uzi, I think it was.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I have a I have a tweet of his bookmarked where he's holding that book. And like the focus of the tweet is to showcase how big the book is, but the reason I bookmarked it was because he took the picture next to his shelf, and on his shelf there's there's a huge pile of Cerebus comics.
Sick.
So I'm just thinking about, like, imagine just going into someone's house. Like the first thing you see is the huge ass Alex Ross comic, but then the next thing you see is this huge pile of comics written by a guy who just thinks that women aren't people.
I wouldn't be able to look away, man. It would raise a lot of
It's a
questions
train
for
wreck.
me.
It's a train wreck, and it's such a beautiful tweet. And I hope that he never finds this podcast, just so that he doesn't delete the tweet, because you know what? Let me go save the tweet right now. Let me go save that picture right now. It's a beautiful thing. But anyways, it is a really big book, and big books are fantastic. Oh, me, what else have I been reading? Honestly don't know what else I've been reading. It's pretty much just been whatever's on my pull list, and whatever's on my pull list either has a 50% chance of being read or going onto a pile. Firepower. That Robert Kirkman book that he did with Chris Samney.
I know it.
It's like Iron Fist if Iron Fist was slightly less problematic. So instead of a white guy doing a pilgrimage to an Asian country and getting this, insane power, it's actually an Asian guy adopted by white people doing this pilgrimage to an Asian country and getting the flaming fist power. And again, the art is why I'm there. Chris Amney's art is just
Yes.
beautiful.
Yeah, I was most familiar with Samney from his Daredevil work.
Daredevil, yeah.
He killed it on there. He's only gotten better. This rocks.
Oh yeah, it's so fluid, and just like some of the framing techniques he uses as well. It's just so fantastic. Yeah. But the thing is, like, there's such quick reads that I'm wondering why it's even on my pull list. Why I'm not just like waiting for it to come out as a trade paperback. So maybe after this arc, I'll just stop pulling it and just get the trade paperbacks instead. Because every time I pick up an issue, I'm like, oh man, this is great. This art's great. It's fantastic. And then like 2 minutes later, I'm already done reading the issue. Just because it's so
That's right,
light.
I heard of it.
It's so light on actual plot. So right. if anyone's looking for a pure, I'm just there for the vibes comic, that's what that comic is. It's one of found it. I found the picture. Thank God. Sorry, this
Retweet
whole thing,
it.
The entire, I can't. There's only one quote tweet on it. I don't.
You gotta DM it to me.
And this, I will DM it to you. But I'll just post it in the channel.
Excellent.
There's no retweets, and it's from a year ago, so I'm not gonna. Yeah, the past 5 minutes were just me stalling until I found that image. So now that I'm not
looking for,
it's, like the book is crazy,
it really is
and then you're And then you just look to the right, like the immediate right, and it's just Cerebus, and then underneath that is American Vampire.
I don't know. Isn't that Snyder? That's all I know, if
That's
I'm
Snyder,
correct.
yeah. I mean, that was like, it's a
Yeah.
fine book, but it's just funny to see that in the crosshairs of Cerebus, Kirby's Eternals, and then Bone. Oh shit, Bone's there. I didn't even notice Bone the first time just because I was so enamored by how much Cerebus this guy owns. Uh, shit, man. Where do I even go from this?
I I mean, if I'm like really clued into the vibes of this picture, I think I'm more distressed about how nearly every single cabinet door is open. It's like freaking me out.
Oh, Jesus Christ, yeah, and there's like a drawer open too. This is I mean, no offense to Uzi. I think he's a swell dandy guy, I'm sure. But this is like one of the most unsettling pics I've ever seen. And it's not even because he's in it.
No,
It's
it's
not because
everything
he's in it.
else.
He's like the
Yeah.
most normal part of this picture.
Yeah.
Everything
Yeah, no,
else
he's there,
about
he's
it is just
vibing with his
so
comics, but
it's so deranged. Just the assortment of comics and the random, like, what is that, a jug, a kettle on a shelf on
I,
top of comics?
yeah, yeah, also distressing. I
It's
okay, now I need to say something nice because I don't want to shit on the guy. I'm sure he's a perfectly nice guy. I really like his red and black bookshelves. Those
I
those are
do like
cool.
that.
Those are
Yeah, I
really
think that's
cool.
that's another
That's
element of this
sick.
picture that's it definitely adds a lot of visual diversity. But also
Yeah.
the book itself is cool. The Eternals book, like the torso-sized book.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
had some of the original printings of it because you can get those for like, I mean, this was 10 years ago, but
Oh,
at the
yeah.
time you could buy an issue of Eternals for like $7, like Kirby Eternals.
Mm,
I don't know if it's still that cheap.
no, it definitely isn't. Especially not after the movie.
Yeah. Oh, right, right. Yeah, well, at the time, like I bought like, I don't know, 5 issues or something because it was like less than $40. I'm like, that's good. That's a bunch of Kirby art. And like, frankly, at the time, that was way more worth it than buying the trades because when they reprint that old Marvel newsprint, like something in that coloring process gets so fucked up. Like
For the what was
on
it,
that,
the Epic collections?
I'm just saying, like
Or
whether it's Kirby, Ditko, Romita, like anyone from that era, like the books hold up and the coloring and the separating looks really nice. But when they reprint it, like it's got this weird, like
oh yeah, that it
recolored
so
computerized look.
there's actually a reason for that. And
Yeah.
Jose Villarrubia, I think it was, did a whole like thread about it, and it's a very
Yeah,
enlightening
wasn't he
thread.
talking about how the color, like the actual ink, like how it reacts with the
Newsprint, yeah, it was
newsprint
basically
paper?
to like
Yeah.
account for the tint of the newsprint that they had to like really
Yes.
oversaturate all of their colors. But then, like when they reprinted it, they're just using the values that they used way back when without actually considering the difference in what it was being printed on,
Right, and
which is
then it's
why
like
you get all
hyper
those like
saturated and it looks like
yeah.
so strange. It reminds me of like the safety comic strip you get on an airplane about like how to put your
Mm,
mask on. Like it has that vibes, like just how fucking weird it looks. But yeah, you used to be able to get those Kirby books, they're cheap.
yeah.
All right, I'm gonna shift gears. I got something for you here. You ready?
Okay, give me some.
All right, I got a couple more podcast name ideas for you.
Oh, perfect. Go for it.
Okay. All right. So this is um, Midnight Grappler Animals.
Is midnight one word? Like
Yeah,
midnight?
Midnight Grappler, like
Okay.
grappling
Yep.
animals. You like that
Animals.
one?
Midnight grappling animals.
Grappler. Yeah,
Grappler. Okay,
Midnight Grappler Animals. You like that?
that's really good for SEO. I'll say. Um,
Yeah.
Let me Google
Well,
that right
I'll
now
tell
just
you
to
now. This
verify.
is all from like a. I really like those anime title generators, and that's where this is
Mm,
from. And so I got a couple more that I thought were really good. Gladiators Romance.
Gladiator's Romance, but that feels like something that feels like it could be misconstrued as like like one of those like dudes who are really into the Roman Empire, but like in a really weird way.
Yeah, it's got that white
Yeah,
supremacist vibe.
it's
You're
got
right.
that. Yeah, I was trying not to say that, but yeah, it's got that vibe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There was one or two more in here that I thought were pretty good. What about Ghost Rogue Spirit Bullet?
Ghost Rogue Spirit. That feels like uh an RPG from like 2012 or a JRPG, I should specify, from 2012.
Right.
Um, and I don't know if that's exactly my vibe. JRPGs in general. Um, so I think that one's definitely gonna have to be a no from me.
Yeah. All right. So it looks like we're leaning into Midnight Grappler Animals.
Midnight Grappler Animals is really good. It really represents the frenetic and just overall just scattered vibe of this podcast. Um,
Great.
and I am something of an animal at midnight myself.
There you go. Well,
Good
cool,
things
man.
about it. You
I gotta
gotta.
leave in like I got a few more minutes, but I gotta leave in like the next 10 minutes
All right,
tops.
so we gotta start wrapping this up. We gotta start thinking about like our closing thoughts.
Well, I'll
Um,
say I went in with a couple of ideas I wanted to float, and I did, but I was surprised by the sort of depth we discovered to this like Substack question and like fandom consumption question that gave me some new ideas.
on my end, I just hope that any of the thoughts that I've had over the past hour and some are coherent upon re-listening to, because I know for a fact that I am not gonna listen to this after it comes out, or sorry, when it comes out. Um, so if you've listened this far, dear viewer, thank you for putting up with the past hour and some of this. I have no idea
Well,
what you're. Hmm?
you know who the dear viewer is, right?
Uh, uh, taxpayers?
Yes, but specifically, I'd say the person most excited to listen to this would be
The girl
J-Pop.
reading this.
Shout out
Oh,
J-Pop.
oh, shout out J-pop. Man, see, that's the other thing
J-Pop
about
has to get the shout out on the comics podcast.
this is true. J-pop has to get an absolute goat, I have to say, when it comes to podcast retrieval. Um,
Yeah.
and we don't have to delve deeper into that for legal reasons.
No, he just tells you like, oh, there's a podcast I really like. Here's their Patreon. You should subscribe to that. Like, here's the link. He's really good about that.
Yeah, just the link though. He doesn't actually provide us with files or anything like that. Again, I was thinking about the shout out segment of the first and the second recording. And I
Yeah.
was thinking, I'm like, yeah, that is a pretty good gag, but you know, I don't know how many of those shout outs would actually be pertinent. Again, like if we do release that in like a year or two's time, it would be really funny to see how many of those have aged well or poorly at all. Um,
Everything I say ages well, so that's fine.
that's true, and I have historically been known to be vindicated uh,
Right. So
several
you
times.
put that together, and this is what we're creating our new timeless classics.
Yeah. See, I hope that by releasing this one, this doesn't spur any more questions about the previous podcast. Even though I said like half an hour ago that that's exactly what I wanted, just because it would be weird to have a podcast with 3 people. Oh, sorry, this is the part where I mentioned that the other podcast had 3 people in it and not just 2.
The Catholic guilt you have about this is incredible, man. This is your telltale heart.
This is absolutely my. If I was Daredevil, this would be my Karen page, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, this is my Elektra.
Can't forget it. Haunted. Yeah.
You know, every month or so when J-pop, replies to me on Twitter and asks me about the podcast, that night I just go to sleep, just sweating, just absolutely sweating. I'm like, all right,
hearing like the screams of the city, thinking of all your failure.
I'm just thinking about like just recaps from that podcast. I'll hear like clips from it in my sleep, and I'll be like, oh God, Jesus Christ, and I'm like, oh God, that bit wasn't actually funny. So yeah, that is.
Well, that's the key is don't try to be funny, and you might say 1 or 2 funny things, and then you're doing it.
That's exactly why I decided not to be funny at all for this one.
Yeah, that was good. Well, there's your other 2 title ideas. If I Was Daredevil or My Telltale Heart.
That, I think My Telltale Heart has probably been used at least 3 times.
I don't think
3 times.
I disagree.
I think we'll stick to Midnight Grappler Animals.
All right, Midnight Grappler Animals.
Yeah, we'll do this again when I feel like it. I'll just give you the recording so you can post them. If you do post them.
If you do send it to me.
If I do send it to you. If my computer has enough space to actually handle the recording of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll be back whenever. This will be... The funniest thing is we haven't, until now, because I'm mentioning it now, we haven't mentioned the Mex Flintayo podcast, which is originally what the original recording was supposed to be a spin-off of. Once again, I'm showing my hand because of all the Catholic guilt about this podcast. But if you haven't already, you should go check out Mex Flintayo. Because we're not a spin-off of that podcast anymore.
No, it's a better podcast.
Oh. Okay, I think we gotta end it there after that.
You can cut that part. Maybe that's what will drive you to edit this.
No edits. No edits. Maybe that was
no edits.
That was your
all
slur.
From the soul. That was my slur.
That was your slur.
All right. Well, I don't mean to put down your dedication to this. I want to say, Lan, thank you for calling me up today. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts. You had a lot of insightful.
You putting up with my thoughts.
No, it was truly a pleasure. I'm really glad to share this time with you, and I'm genuinely saying, like, if someone was like, "Hey, I want to talk to you about comics criticism," like, I would like run away. I would not want to have that conversation. But with you, it's like, oh, I think this dude actually has something like cool to say here. So that's like actually pleasurable for me.
Okay, I'll be corny and say I needed this.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there we go. That's a good spot to end
there we go.
Podcast on.
Sick. All right, Lan. Well, I'm going to bounce, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and get some good, more fishing happening.
Yes. Now, how do I leave?
Yeah, how do I leave?
This is
there was this picture of Uzi, and I didn't know how to exit it.
Do I... Let me try typing /leave. This is the great thing about this being unedited.
Oh, wait. Okay, I'm going to hit disconnect. Adios,
Okay, I'm
amigo.
gonna hit disconnected. Oh shit, it's just me. Okay. Bye.